that they've done so well for so long. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Best.
Next is Tammy Best, followed by Bonnie Cannon.
Tammy Best, Port Royal District. I'm here to support the fire department. You guys are continually issuing the permits for professional fireworks displays. Accidents happen, and someday there's going to be an accident that requires medics and the fire department to be out there. You cut those positions, we don't get them. You have now a major problem on your hands. And for those of you who think accidents don't happen, I'm going to cite just a few that happened in 1 year on the same day in the state of Virginia and Washington, D.C. Our interim chief, Garnett, told you about the Bowling Green incident. Luckily, you only had minor injuries and minor damage. There was an incident in Vienna, Virginia, the year before, so they chose to pack 800 pounds of sandbags around the mortar box. This next year, the same thing happened. A firework next to it misfired, knocked over that mortar box, went through 800 pounds of sandbags into a crowd that was over 300 feet away. The city is now paying $4.75 million to 2 people who were seriously injured. One of them was a 3-year-old who was hit in the head with a firework. Okay, in Fairfax County on that same 4th of July, they had 4 similar incidences that luckily only resulted in minor injuries and minor damage. The same night in Washington, D.C., 45 minutes after the show was done on the mall and the experts were cleaning up, an unexploded shell went off.
Ms. Best, I really do believe the board has an understanding that you probably need to be addressing your comments to the fireworks ordinance, but we understand that there accidents do happen. So
right, but I'm saying
fire,
do not cut those 5 positions, because if one of these accidents happens and you have no people out there, it's going to be even worse, and it's going to cost somebody money. You can see that they already had to pay $4.75 million to one family. So I say do not cut those positions. We need the fire department.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next is Bonnie Cannon, followed by Nancy Filsoof.
Mr. Chairman, fellow board members, Bonnie Cannon, Bowling Green District. I recently reviewed the debt status of the county, and I was shocked. It's shocking figures that I have reviewed. I encourage you to review, and review your budget before you approve the 2012-13 budget for the county. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cannon.
Good evening, gentlemen.
The next speaker was Nancy and Don Filsoof.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Good evening, gentlemen. I'm Nancy, and this is Don Filsoof, and I'm here to talk about 4 points on the budget very quickly. The first one is that we're not happy about property taxes, and we understand that these are the days of great need. However, everybody's hurting, and I think if you continue to go to us for revenues, and I think the people of Caroline County are going to be starting to really suffer. I think they're already starting to suffer now. So I encourage you to look elsewhere for more revenues and to be creative about where you can get your revenues other than going to your tax base. The second point that I wanted to make is about property taxes. And I noticed you went up to 3.5%, right, on the property tax. But I also know that there is a Virginia tax relief that was at one time 70%. And I was just curious. I didn't notice the table in your budget showed comparison of the counties around Caroline County. And it showed the percentage, and it also showed whether or not it was 3.5 or if it was higher or lower, of 100% or higher or lower. But we didn't see anything about the Virginia state tax relief. And I was curious about that because that makes a huge difference in how much we're going to be paying for our cars, our property taxes. So I would like to have more information about that, have more transparency. So that's the second concern I had about the budget. The third concern I had about the budget, it's been mentioned earlier about the Dawn facility and water treatment. There are actually 2 line items in the general fund that wasn't in there last year or the year before. And the Dawn water treatment plant was one, or the treatment whatever is one. The second thing was also the the Bowling Green utilities. And those are 2 line items that were not in the general fund before. And I'm not sure what the general fund is for. It looks like it's for, if we can't pay, we go to the general fund to help us out. It's sort of like a piggy bank for emergencies. I thought the general fund would be helpful for all the people in Caroline County, not just for certain areas of Caroline County. So I really didn't care to see that kind of budgetary itemization. I was confused and concerned about that. So those are really the 3 concerns that I had about the budget. The fourth thing was that I looked at your wonderful website. Caroline County is great. I loved it. And I saw that, you have your vision statement and you have your mission. And I was looking, and I saw all the wonderful ideals that we have about serving the Caroline County residents. But last year, my husband sent an email about 11 months ago, a couple of times to the administrative office, never received an email back. And I think it's important for the Caroline County residents to know that we have access to you, especially to the government. That's pretty much what I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next 2 speakers are Charles Harrell and Rhonda Harrell.
My name is Charles Harrell from the Port Royal District, and it's come to my attention that we have borrowed too much money. Our county is up to our neck in debt, and we're not paying it down. I encourage the board to look at the budget and start cutting. We need to cut the budget everywhere we can to pay down the debt, not to shift money somewhere else, to have another program, not to start a new project, not to leave some type of legacy by any board members or any staff members. What we need to do is to cut down how much we borrowed. Well, we're going to feel ourselves being in so far debt that we'll be another California or something like that, where we have to almost declare bankruptcy. We need to cut the budget so that we can get out of debt. And if we have to bite the bullet and raise taxes to do that, I say that's what we need to do. So it's cutting and also raising taxes to get out of this debt. It's incredible to have $127 million, an incredible amount of money that my son's going to have to pay off in the next 30 years. So please, board members, look at the budget, start cutting, and if necessary, raise the taxes to pay down the debt. So then that extra money that we would be paying in interest or paying on debt service can be applied to ongoing things. But to keep spending money, keep coming up with more projects is just ludicrous. We need to cut and raise taxes to pay down the debt. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harrell.
Good evening. Rhonda Harrell from the Port Royal District. Dr. Anderson very succinctly and accurately portrayed the current budget and the imbalance of funding for some departments. It was very noticeable that some departments and agencies have gained in funding, while others have gone with level funding for a number of years. I would suggest that you fully fund not those departments that are the most visible or the most vocal, but that you fully fund those departments and agencies that have tried to be the most efficient, who have tried to be good stewards of their money, who in this economy have tightened their belts accordingly. Please reward those departments and agencies who have been willing to selflessly put forth an effort to cooperate and self-regulate to benefit the county. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harrell.
Next two speakers are Richard Bradley and Jim Schaefer.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Richard Bradley. I'm in Mr. Black's district, Western Carolina. I am disturbed, and I've been disturbed for many years because of the gross disparity between taxes on land and taxes on automobiles. A $20,000 asset, if that's in land, I would pay a tax on it of $140 per year. If I have $20,000 invested in an automobile, and that's not an unusual number, my taxes would be $660 a year. That's based on an average assessment rate. I think that is a terrible discrepancy. I think it's terribly discriminatory against people that are not on the elevated economic level. I would encourage you to look hard at that. I've got my own answer. My vehicle is 8 years old, and I'm going to run it till the wheels fall off. And when that happens, I'm going to buy more wheels. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bradley.
My name is Jim Schaefer. I'm the Executive Director of the Rappahannock Area Agency on Aging, and I'd like to start off by thanking all the members of the Caroline County Board of Supervisors for your many years of support for the Area Agency on Aging and its programs in the county. In particular, I thank you for restoring funding for the Ladysmith Meal Center last year, which has made many seniors very happy, I can tell you that. The mission of the RAAA and the nationwide aging network of which it is a part is to help older persons, especially those who are low income and socially disadvantaged, maintain a healthy and independent lifestyle so that they may remain active and engaged members of the community. It is far more cost effective to provide in-home community-based services than to pay for very expensive nursing home care or to have no care at all if the programs of the Area Agency on Aging were not available. Demand for our services remains very strong in Caroline County and throughout the planning district. In fiscal year 11, we provided nearly 5,000 congregate meals at the Bowling Green and Ladysmith Meal Centers. Our home-delivered meals program provided over 13,000 meals to homebound low-income residents of the county. Our transportation program provided over 6,000 trips to the meal centers, grocery shopping, socialization and recreational outings, and to medical appointments. Our emergency services program helped 17 Caroline residents with electric, fuel, phone, and medication bills. And these programs represent just a few of those that are offered by the RAAA. In fact, in fiscal year 11, the RAAA assisted over 738 Caroline County residents with services valued at nearly $500,000. Now more than ever before, the RAAA faces a serious challenge in its attempt to maintain current service levels. Our federal funding remains at fiscal year 2010 levels, and state and local resources are not sufficient to make up for the shortfall. The result is ever-growing waiting lists for services. In our core programs, congregate meals, home-delivered meals, homemaker, and transportation, we must now we have extensive waiting lists, and we now must make room or have a person leave the program, one of our programs, in order for somebody to come off of the waiting list, and the wait gets longer and longer. And all of this is happening just as the older population is rapidly increasing, thus placing more pressure on our services. The cost of all of our basic elements of our programs continues to increase every year, especially gasoline and diesel fuel. Funding from all the local governments, therefore, is absolutely critical to the operation of the important services provided by the RAAA. For fiscal year 13, the RAAA has requested $31,500 from Caroline County, which represents a 5% increase over current funding. If granted, all of the increase will go to cover the higher costs of operating our transportation program, which is really critical to providing access for the low-income population of Caroline County. And so I thank you again for your support and for the opportunity to speak with you this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Schaefer.
Next speakers are Linnea Woolridge and Linda Keith.
Linnea Woolridge, Bowling Green. Good evening again, Mr. Chairman and gentlemen of the board. I feel that there are two unarguable things that cannot be self-sufficient that the people of Caroline County cannot live without: public schools and emergency services. It would be a travesty to weigh these two vitally important issues against each other. We need good schools to educate our youth, obviously, which statistically will better our county, and we need emergency services to protect us in our homes and community. Both of these two issues affect my personal life daily because, as you know, I have a little girl who goes to Bowling Green Primary. I have another one who will be going to Bowling Green Primary. I don't know if you do know that I also have a husband, Adam, who is a volunteer firefighter in the town of Bowling Green and subsequently for the entire county. He works a day job, 9 to 5 in Fredericksburg, sometimes different shifts. He'll do night shifts. Sometimes he has to travel, but usually 5 days a week. And the other hours of the day, he keeps his pager with him, and he goes on fire and emergency calls, at least usually once or twice a day. Sometimes it'll be a couple of times in a week. Sometimes it'll be a couple of times in a night, you know. But it's his service to the county. He became involved with the Bowling Green Fire Department after they rescued our brand new baby from choking in 2008, and we were very lucky. They were there within 45 seconds of our phone call. We live pretty close. This commitment is something that has infringed on his ability to spend time with his family, and it has gotten in the way of many things that he could be doing: fishing, hunting, whatever a man or woman would do if they were involved with a fire, if they were not involved with a fire department. And it's been hard on our family, but we do feel like it's a worthy cause. We also, as a family, feel safer knowing that we have a staffed fire department for the many hours of a day that my husband and his fellow volunteer firefighters cannot get there to save a woman who is stuck in her bathtub, or to extricate a child from a car wreck, or to pull out people from a fire, or just to put out a fire to save someone's home. We need these men and women just like we need schools that adequately serve us. Sorry, I wrote this right now, so it's a little messy. I would urge the board to look to public utilities for an answer, perhaps creating sanitation districts. You know, things that we could budget that could be self-sustaining entities for the county, saving us from having to reduce staffing for an already understaffed county, and also saving us from having to take safe schools from our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Woolridge.
Following Linda Keith is Ryan Abernathy.
Linda Keith, Bowling Green. I think you've heard from a lot of people here. They don't want the EMS and fire to be cut, as well they never should be. In fact, as this county is growing in numbers, those numbers should be growing as well. Unfortunately, I've been up here several times to speak to you, and I don't feel that you listen to anything any of us have to say a lot of times. With that being said, the schools should be higher up than 43%, I believe is the number that was quoted earlier tonight. If you don't stop the frivolous spending that I have seen in this county, you're not going to have a county or people living in here to support you. So you can go and take your money and you can go and do what you want to do with it, because there won't be anybody here to help you. There won't be anybody here living here to help you do what you think you want to do. Your constituents are here telling you what you should do. You guys have a mind of your own. You pray to God before you do this every meeting. I think you need to look to Him for some answers, because if you don't, it's all on you. It's all on you. When you cut the EMS and somebody dies because they couldn't get there, it's on you. Ultimately, it's on you. When somebody, one of you, have a fire and they can't get to your house, it's your fault. When I was on the redistricting committee, we recommended 5 districts. You went to 6 districts and increased the budget $30,000 just because there's an extra district. I don't get it. I don't understand how you can think it's okay to just keep spending and not bring money into this community. You can't keep taxing us. You can't keep... We all live on budgets. I don't know if you do. I live on a budget. Between gas and the schools and everything else I have to pay for and the food I have to pay for, my budget is dwindling because everything else is going up. I won't have the money to stay here. I moved here from New York so I can have the money to stay here. Why? Think about what you're doing. Think about who you're hurting. I know, I got it.
Thank you, Ms. Keith.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Ryan Abernathy. I'm the president of the Caroline County Professional Firefighters Association. I'm here to speak in opposition to the potential loss of the 5 firefighter positions in the Department of Fire and Rescue. The loss of 5 firefighter positions in our county is a matter of public concern. We shouldn't allow citizens and the businesses in our community to be at risk. In an emergency, you need us to show up as fast as possible with enough firefighters to safely and effectively extinguish a fire, perform a rescue, and provide life-saving medical care. When responses take more than a few minutes, losses escalate substantially, resulting in a greater loss of life and property. Having too few firefighters aggravates the problem, putting residents, businesses, and firefighters in even greater danger. The National Fire Protection Association, or NFPA, is an international organization which provides input towards the deployment of fire service industry guidelines, which are nationally recognized and followed by several fire departments. These guidelines were developed for your safety, firefighter safety, and the safety of the community. NFPA 1710 is a standard that sets minimum criteria for the organization and deployment of firefighting crews and how they will respond and operate at emergency scenes. By retaining these 5 positions, this will help us to achieve in the future the minimum staffing recommended by the National Fire Protection Association of 4 personnel on each apparatus to arrive at an emergency scene in a timely manner from when the dispatch center receives the call, and to have the right number of firefighters to properly handle the emergency incident. NFPA 1710 offers insurance for the local economy by guaranteeing the community and its businesses that fire and emergency medical services will respond promptly and appropriately in an emergency. Our goal is to keep small fires small, thereby minimizing the impact of the emergency incident and as a result minimizing the cost to recover. Communities with good records of emergency response times enhance the quality of life for current citizens and may help attract new citizens and businesses. Even in the worst of economic times, we must consider all measures needed to ensure the public's safety. We encourage the board to share in this responsibility by making a commitment to maintain public safety resources. Your firefighters take their duty to protect life and property very seriously. We are sworn to protect you. Please help the firefighters in this county keep our citizens and business community safe. Members, thank you for your time.
Mr. Abernathy, before you go, can you tell us what voting district you live in?
I don't reside in the county.
Okay. Thank you.
Last speaker on the list is Shannon Gamble.
Good evening, chair members, members of the board. My name is Shannon Gamble. I live in the Western District. And I just wanted to come here tonight and let you know that I cannot possibly imagine that any of you sitting up there this evening could fathom the thought of cutting 5 positions from our fire EMS group. These guys are out on the streets every day working. They could be working for anybody. The width and depth of our county is so huge. The need for fire EMS in our county is so huge. And we talk about citizens. Well, let's take the citizens out of it. Let's call us what we really are. We're people. Let's bring the human aspect back into the situation, because that's what our fire EMS people do. They treat us as people. They treat us as humans. They don't look at us and say, oh, there's another dollar for the county. Because truly, that's not what it is. We're here to save lives. They're there to save lives. They do it daily. They love it. They work hard at it. I think the point of trying to cut 5 positions from them is an absolutely revolting thought. I live in the county, and I can't imagine. I have 2 small children. I cannot even imagine if for any reason I needed to call 911 and it took a lengthy amount of time for them to get there because they didn't have the people to do it. And I live close to one of the rescue stations and one of the fire stations. I can't imagine going to bed every night knowing that if something happened in the middle of the night to one of my children and I had to call 911, the thought of not having them be there is more than any one of you should want to have to think about. And I just want you guys to take a minute, take a deep breath and say, hey, what are we really doing to our county if we let these 5 positions go? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gamble. You've heard that was the last name on the list to speak at this public hearing. However, I will give anyone else, if there's anyone else in the audience that would like to address this board on this particular issue of the 2012-2013, please come forward, state your name, state your voting district.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is George Parker. I live in the Mattaponi voting district. I would like to just echo and hopefully complete the thought of the lady who worked on the planning or the redistricting commission. You cannot continue to spend money that you don't have. You just can't do it. I said it in the paper. I'll say it here. If I ran my household budget the way you run this county's budget, I'd be in jail. Plain and simple. If I ran my household budget into the levels of debt that you've ran this county into, I would be in jail. And I think, to echo what the last speaker said, I'm sorry, I just lost the point. But, just even beyond, including the 5 positions, but even beyond that, we need to fund what we are required to fund by law. We need to fund what's important for the county and put the pet projects aside. Forget about them. We can't afford to do it. There's too much debt and not enough income. It's just that simple. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parker.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Catherine Laughlin, and I'm in the Port Royal voting district. And I just wanted to share a personal experience. I was away at school at a boarding school, and we had a fire, and there was a response from the fire department from the town where the school was at. It was not enough to put out the fire. They contacted the next nearest town to come, but I have to say the building burnt down to the ground. I will never, ever forget. I'm petrified of fires. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Hoffman.
May I speak?
Please go ahead.
My name is Donald Shores. I'm in Mr. Floyd Thomas's district, the Mattaponi district, and I'd like to go on record as opposing increases to new property taxes and real estate taxes. Now is not the time for that. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in a recession. And I don't care what anybody says, things are not getting better financially. There's lots of people out there that's just barely making it now. And if you decide on this increase, I don't know what's going to happen to them. Because it's not right. Look at your gas prices. Gas prices are edging towards $4. Who knows, maybe by summertime they may be $5 a gallon. And look at the grocery store. You go in a grocery store, you buy $40, $50. What have you got? Hardly anything. And I just don't feel that this is a time to even think about raising taxes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Shores.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm Tom Laughlin, Port Royal District. Just real quickly, it's interesting. You're getting wire brushed every time you turn around, and you inherited the debt that you had, and I sympathize with you. And I think when you think about the government, the federal government, their primary responsibility is to provide for the nation's defense and set foreign policy. Now, to bring that down to a county level, probably the first responsibility of the board is to protect the citizenry within the county. And the way in which we do that, since we don't have a National Guard in the county, is our first responders. And I think to negate that, I, for one, would certainly be willing to have our taxes raised, even though it is a recession. We cannot let the citizens of the county at jeopardy. You don't have a printing press in the back of this auditorium, and so either you have to make more money or cut. But I think you have to be very judicious in where you cut, and your first responsibilities, as far as I'm concerned, and I think many of the speakers, is for the well-being, safety, and education of the county. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Laughlin.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the supervisors. My name is Michael Linehan. I'm from the Bowling Green District. And I wasn't going to speak about the budget, but I feel compelled to. As far as the firefighters go, I had the privilege to serve on the United States aircraft carrier Forrestal when it blew up off the coast of Vietnam. I know firsthand what trained firefighters, without them, what happens. I don't see how you can cut 5 positions and justify building a YMCA for starters. Secondly, above and beyond that, one of the things that I consistently hear in this county is we can't raise taxes for anything. When it's good times, we don't need to raise taxes, and when it's a recession, which it's not a recession right now, we're coming out of that, we can't raise taxes. Well, you know, the bottom line is that you need to fund what we need to fund, and you need to stop cutting stuff. The answer is not cut everything and just do with what you've got. That is not the answer. You must, at some juncture, raise taxes. This county provides Poor schools, because there's not enough taxes. They're talking about doing it with firefighters because there's not enough taxes or not enough money. You must get the funding from someplace. And for you, that's taxes. I encourage you to put politics aside and do what you need to do to have the funding to properly support this county. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Linehan. Seeing no one else coming forward,
Good evening. My name is Don Philsoof. I'm with Mr. Jeff Sillybacker in Bowling Green District. What I brought with me is taxes that I paid in 2011 in the cars that I have in Caroline County and the several that I have in Fairfax County. Just for your information, for the 2 cars I have in Caroline County, I pay more taxes here for the lesser value cars than I pay 4 cars in Fairfax County. And I have that document here I can show you. And that's the reason my spouse was asking, if you're going to charge 3.5% for $100, where is that 70% tax relief? And in Fairfax County, they give you 70% tax relief is in this document that I can share with you if you wish.
Does that have your real estate tax rate too from Fairfax? You can just give it to her. I was just curious as to if it had a real estate tax rate from Fairfax too.
Sharon needs to look at that because she's the one that, the 70%, it has to do with the 70% reduction. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Sam Meggs. I'm new to Caroline County. Moved here 4 years ago from South Carolina.
Could you say your name again, sir?
Sam Meggs.
Sam Beggs?
Meggs. M-E-G-G-S.
Thank you, sir.
And I just wanted to speak out against any increase in my taxes. When I was in South Carolina, I lived in a better house. I paid less taxes than I paid in Caroline County. We're here because of grandkids. I'm retired, my wife's retired, we're seniors, and we just can't deal with continued increase in taxes. When you get to be on a fixed income with Social Security and your little retirement, and taxes keeps going up, that just makes it rough for any senior. The other thing I'd like to say, I was sitting back there, I couldn't hear everything very well because my hearing's not the best and the volume wasn't too good and I was sitting too far back, I guess. But it seems like I've heard quite a few people try to put you on a guilt trip that if something happens and somebody is not there to pick them up if they stub their toe, it's on you. Well, I just want to tell you, it's not on you. We each have our own personal responsibilities. A government that tries to do everything for everybody is one that's way too big, and there's no freedom if the government's going to do everything. Thank you.
What district do you live in?
I'm sorry?
Which district do you live in? You live on the western side of the county?
I live on Lady Smith Road.
Lady Smith Road?
Lady Smith Road.
Gotcha. Thank you.
How far on Lady Smith Road?
I'm sorry?
How far on Lady Smith Road? Are you near Lady Smith or are you?
I'm halfway between, well, I'm 5 miles from Lady Smith coming toward Bowling Green.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
If you're coming off 207, it's 2 miles.
I'll find you. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
You're in the Mattapanai district.
Thank you.
You're in the Mattapanai district.
Do I have a map?
No, I see. That's okay. We're okay.
No,
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Sir.
Good evening. My name is Matt Rome from the Bowling Green District. I wasn't planning on speaking tonight, but you had a lot of other people here this evening here to try to save the fire and rescue positions and to persuade you to make investments in public education. I don't think it's very common in a lot of counties around here, usually at this time in the economy, that you'd have so many people here begging you to please make these investments and to go ahead and spend the dollar. I know as politicians you might be afraid, okay, I can't spend this money, I'm going to pay for this at the ballot box. Don't be afraid. There are a lot of people here that want you to make these investments in public education and to save these 5 positions in fire and rescue. Sure, there are some people who don't want their property taxes to go up any. They don't want you to make that extra investment in the budget. Don't worry about it. You have a lot of people here backing you up. They came here to talk tonight, and they want you to make these investments in fire and rescue and education. Please do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rowe. Okay, seeing no one else coming forward at this point, I do want to make one comment, and normally we would not do this at public hearing, but concerning the fire and rescue, and I support certainly the fire and rescue department and have for the many years I've served on this board. I just want everybody to understand is the fact that those positions were grant-funded positions for the last 3 years, I think it was, that they've been in place. And so those positions were not included in the proposed budget that was presented to the board. You haven't been paying for them in the past because they have been grant-funded positions. So whatever the amount is, and it's probably close to $400,000 a year, we have to, and it was not included in the 4-cent proposed tax increase. So if the board as a whole determines that it's going to preserve those positions, then we certainly have to find the additional revenue to fund those positions because it is new funding completely. You've not funded it in the past. And the fact is it was not proposed in the budget that the county administrator or the interim county administrator presented to this board and was not included in the tax increase that was proposed by the interim county administrator. Having made that comment, the public hearing is declared closed. The board will take a 10-minute recess and we will come back and have the public hearing on the proposed calendar year 2012 tax rates. We're going to reconvene the Board of Supervisors meeting. The next item on the agenda this evening is the proposed calendar year 2012 tax rates. The same rules would apply for this public hearing as the past public hearing. Mr. Pardon has a list of individuals that have signed up to speak at this particular public hearing. He'll call your name. He'll call 2 or 3 at a time, and if you would, please come forward. I'll come closer to the front so that you can come to the podium faster. All right. We will now, does the board have any questions of Mr. Pardon or Mrs. Hatcher before we open the public hearing? We will now declare the public hearing open. Mr. Pardon.
First 3 names on the list are Bob Harry, Bonnie Cannon, and George Spinner.
Board members, Chairman, Alan, good evening. A couple of years ago, we had our property taxes raised. Our property values actually went down. So we raised the taxes and added a penny or two so that the county would wind up with a, I guess they call it a neutral revenue, or revenue neutral, so that we took the loss, the county didn't. We're looking at raising the taxes again this year, because we didn't plan for things we knew were coming. That's not good planning. Well, we're going to ask the county, the citizens of the county and the community, to take care of what we overlooked and what we didn't take care of. You know, we were sitting here talking a little while ago about negotiating away late fees. You know, I don't know that they would negotiate away my late fees on my property taxes, or my bank notes, or my electric bill. If these are revenues that are owed to the county, then they should be collected. You know, this board decided that only certain members of the community that work here have to pay a fee for the BPOL, Business Professional Occupational License, or tax. They set a monetary value on the limits. If these folks paid the minimum fee, we're looking for revenue right now. If they paid the minimum fee of $35, that's about a penny an hour in the course of a work year that they have to incorporate into their business to make things work. Now, we're looking for revenue. Just mind you, we're looking for revenue. So I would say, do we have a BPOL or do we not have a BPOL? Who has to pay it? Who doesn't have to pay it? Okay? Taxes are a big deal. You know, we pay for a lot of stuff around here now. I live in one of the more depressed areas. We're paying for stuff over in the primary growth areas because things didn't work out there very well. You know, a lot of the